So Israel also punches above its weight, and I hope Colombia will punch above its weight in terms of technology as well. Just a few words about the Viola Group. We were founded in 2000. We manage more than $2.5 billion US today, and we are Israel's largest private equity and venture capital fund. We invest through all stages, from very early stage technology companies until late stage, when these are big companies selling hundreds of millions of dollars. Today we are invested in over 150 companies. Our group is about 80 people and we are 15 partners. I am one of them. We have the largest ecosystem in Israel, we think, in terms of technology. And during 2015 and 16, we sold companies for more than $1.8 billion in capital. Our group is structured through specific funds. Each fund has its own strategy from early stage to late stage, and we do also equity and debt. And when building an ecosystem, it's not only about investing the money in these companies, because money by itself is stupid. You need the wisdom and the know-how and the experience to help these companies become global companies. So for example, what we have special forums where these companies and the executives with these companies come to us every month to learn from our experience and to share ideas and knowledge between the CEOs or the executives of these companies. So for example, the CFOs of all the companies come and share ideas about how to finance these companies in smart ways. We have the CTOs, the Chief Technology Officers, come and talk about technology and how to better develop the technology. We have the Human Resources Executives come and talk how do you get the best talent to come to your companies and so forth. And this is very valuable for the entrepreneurs that we work with. We also build a very big database of all the companies in Israel from beginning. The minute they get registered, we have them in our database and we follow what's happening with them, so we know exactly what's happening in the industry. We are very active on the web as well, so people read our blogs and understand that we have special know-how in specific fields, and then they come to us. And this has created over the past 20 years the fact that we are the gateway for the global players, and this is just a part list, that when they come to Israel to do business or to look for technology, they come to us first to talk to us because we have the widest view of what's happening in the market. And this also gives us a lot of strength, because when we decide if we want to invest in a company, we talk to these guys to understand exactly what's happening, if the product is what they need, if the technology is something that they need, and then we can cooperate with them and they become the clients of our businesses. And this also draws the best investors in the world to invest with us, and this is again just a partial list. So you see a lot of banks and financial institutions. We are very strong in fintech, for example, financial technologies. So all these banks come to invest with us, Chinese insurance companies, Chinese banks. And this again creates an ecosystem, not only the companies that come to take our advice, but also our investors who want to take a first look about the new technologies that are developed in Israel. And so our group is the group with the highest ratio of promising companies. And every year there's these business ratings of these promising companies, and we are very proud to be the first. Now I want to talk a little bit about macroeconomics and about the industry. So in Israel, we have, like in Colombia, for many years, a positive GDP growth, which is above the OECD countries and many countries in the world. Just in the second quarter of 2016, we grew over 4%, which is much better than Western Europe, the US, and many other countries in the world. Colombia is also growing very nicely, and I'm sure you have a lot of potential to increase that as well. This is a key fundamental to have a strong economy that supports what we do. In Israel, we have a record low unemployment rate. So a lot of people get drawn into the employment circle. Now we're actually seeing a situation where for some industries we lack employees, and there's a lot of debate whether we can import employees from other countries in the world. But we're also seeing that an increase in the participation of people in the workforce. So many more circles of society are joining the workforce and enjoying this growth, and especially in the technology market, which is the locomotive market for our economy. Israel has been ranked for many years as one of the top countries in R&D and innovation. We are currently ranked number 2. I don't remember if number 1 is Switzerland or Korea. Oops. And we're always rating amongst the top 10 in the innovation and number of patents and the number of engineers per capita. And the government is investing a lot in promoting this. And the government has a very important role in promoting technology sector. Next slide. The clicker is not responding. Okay. 31% of the total exports in Israel are technology related. And if you look at the industrial export, more than 80% is technology. So technology is really the key locomotive to our economy. It's very, very important, and it's going to continue like that. And when I mentioned Obama before, you can see that initially in his beginning of his tenure, we had about $6 billion of exit. That means dollars coming in after we sell companies. And over the last 4 years, this number has jumped dramatically. So it's really become a mature and robust industry for Israel. I want to show a movie about some of the developments that go on in Israel, and I'm sure most of you use a lot of these technologies which come out of Israel. Can we run the next video, please?
In the morning, get into your car and drive to work. You probably use Waze to avoid traffic. Waze was developed in Israel. If your eyes stray from the road for a moment, you will promptly be warned by your mobile eye safety system, another Israeli development. Your workday is stressing you out. Your smartwatch will monitor your pulse and remind you to slow things down a little, thanks to an electro-optic sensor developed in Israel. Your laptop most probably runs on a processor developed in Intel, Israel. Do you use the internet? Next time you visit Facebook and Google or use Microsoft products, remember they all use network components developed by Mellanox. From Israel, do you transfer data on memory sticks? That technology was invented in Israel. Those family and friend photos you snap with your mobile camera, the camera was developed in Israel. Enjoy getting help from Google Complete. You guessed right, that too was developed in Israel. And last but not least, next year, Israel Aerospace Industries from Israel and Facebook will launch a satellite that will provide internet connection in remote areas where even water is not available.
You know, the world is talking, maybe winter is back. So maybe it is. If you look at numbers for the venture capital technology industry in the US, numbers show that the market is cooling down and there are less investments. But guess what? In Israel, the numbers are going up. And we are consistently getting better year after year. One of the reasons, for example, is that in Israel you can find excellent technology companies, but you pay less than what you pay in the US. So there's a lot more money coming into Israel now. And because of that, we're growing. And if you look how much is invested in Israel compared to the world, Israel is more than double than the entire investment in technology in Europe. We're about 8% of total investments in technology in the United States, almost 10% of what is invested in China, and more than half what is invested in India. And I remind you that Israel is a very, very small country. We're just about 8.5 million people, I think less than what live in Bogota. Another very strong, interesting fact, which could also benefit the Colombian market, the big technology companies in the world, the Googles, the Apples, hold massive amounts of cash outside of the US. And because of the tax regulations in the US, they cannot bring that money back because they don't want to pay tax. So they're looking for places where they can buy. Israel is a good target for them. So all of these companies are consistently buying in Israel. And if you open my office window, what you'll see is a big Apple smiling at you, because Apple's largest R&D center outside of the US is where my office is in Israel, where the Israeli Silicon Valley is. And this has created a whole ecosystem of funds operating in Israel. This is just a partial list. But on the left side, you see the seed funds. These are funds that are specializing only on seed companies, so taking entrepreneurs with the hand and giving them the initial capital they need to start up. After they finish and these companies grow, then you have the middle part, which are the venture capital funds. That's where we are, the green square there. And you can find a lot of Israeli funds, but what you can also find are US funds that found the Israeli market attractive and that are opening offices in Israel, raising money especially for Israeli companies. And then at the bottom of the middle part, you see the corporate venture capital funds. All of them have R&D centers in Israel, and they see so many companies, so why not also make investments? So they have teams in Israel looking for new technologies, new entrepreneurs to invest in. And on the right-hand side, you see the latest development in the market just over the past 5-6 years are the buyout and the growth stage. Because the Israeli companies are growing so fast, you need more capital to help them even grow more. And over there, what we see is also very interesting names coming from the US, like KKR, Goldman Sachs, and others who are the world's largest investors. And when they come to Israel, that means that they can find really, really big opportunities there. And so what we see is year after year, we see that the capital raised in Israel by technology companies is rising. And we see the company formation is also breaking records. In 2016, it's going to be about 1,400 new companies just in 1 year. It means that every day there are more than 3 or 4 companies being formed. It's a massive amount for a small country like Israel. Another very interesting scene is that now Israeli companies are starting to get established not in Israel but outside. Only in New York, there are more than 200 Israeli companies with Israeli entrepreneurs who decided to start their business over there because their main market is over there. So we as Israeli funds are now starting not only to invest in Israel and Israeli companies, but investing in Israeli companies which are based outside in Israel. And this phenomenon is only growing. And what we also see is that the exits, that when we sell companies with a profit, is on the rise. So this year we estimate there are going to be close to $10 billion of exits selling Israeli companies, and obviously that fuels the market, brings more money to the market, more entrepreneurs want to start. So it's a huge business. And now this is the latest thing in the Israeli tech scene, is we see the rise of what we call the unicorns. Unicorns are companies which are valued over $1 billion. So we've got quite a few of those. We are very proud in Viola to have 2 of those. Iron Source and Outbrain are 2 of our companies, and we have very big holdings in them. And we're waiting now for the things to come in the US and for the IPO market on NASDAQ to open. And then you will see some of these companies going public over there, and hopefully with these valuations, we're going to make a lot of money. These are just a partial list of the global technology companies that have active R&D offices in Israel, employing tens of thousands of employees across the country. And obviously when these companies operate, then not only they buy, some of their employees, after a few years, they leave and they start out their own businesses, but now they have the knowledge of how to work in multinational companies, and that is very valuable. The key thing for Israeli companies, the minute they get registered, is how to go outside of Israel. So every startup in Israel thinks global. This is a key element, and working with these people, with these companies, is essential for our startups to succeed. And this is my last slide, just to show you how things are so dynamic. One of the hottest themes that we see in the market now is around the autonomous driving and autonomous cars. Israel never had any manufacturing of cars in Israel. Hardly, there were a few companies that manufacture parts, and Israel was not really interesting for the car manufacturers. But over the past couple of years, we started to see all the car manufacturers buying in Israel and opening R&D centers. And all of this is because of the autonomous driving. Israel has amazing capabilities and technology that is relevant for autonomous driving. So Ford made an acquisition, Volkswagen made an acquisition, and both General Motors and Mercedes Daimler opened R&D centers in Israel, all targeted for autonomous driving. So the market is continuously changing and evolving, and this is one of the latest things, and we are also making investment in companies that address this market. So thank you very much. I'm going to be around if you have any questions.